All right, hi everybody. We're going to talk about solving compound inequalities. So an inequality that has two or more, well, we're going to just stick with two inequality signs. Now there's two types of these. There's an and compound inequality, and then there's an or. And those two little words are very important. They're so different. And meaning that this and this have to work, so you must include both of those. But if I said, hey, this can work or this could work, it could be either one. And that's in another video. We'll talk about the or. But this is for that and compound inequalities. So take a look at the left screen on the GMM. I have negative 8 is less than 2 plus 4x. Then we have 2 plus 4x is less than negative 5. That's a compound and inequality because that 2 plus 4x has two inequalities it has to satisfy. So it has to satisfy both. So what I did was I took that compound inequality. If you look to the right screen, I recopied negative 8 less than 2 plus 4x. And then I recopied the 2 plus 4x less than negative 5. So look at it as two separate ones for now. Let's do a little solving, and I'll be right back. On the right side, notice I subtracted 2 from both sides, or added negative 2 to both sides. I get negative 10. I get 4x. And the sign would stay the same. Only reverse the sign if you're multiplying or dividing by a negative. Now I'm going to divide by 4 to get x by itself. So x is by itself. I divide by a positive, so I keep the sign the way it was. And a negative divided by positive is a negative. And 10 fourths can be simplified. Divide by 2, divide by 2. Be negative 5 halves. So that's one solution. Okay, that's one possible solution. You can also look at that as saying that means any number that's greater than negative 5 halves can make this compound inequality true. But you got to look at the second part also, because the solutions have to work for both parts. Look at the second part. Like you did before, get x by itself, you subtract 2. This time I get a negative 7. Divide by 4. X is less than negative 7 fourths. Well, I actually have these two inequalities, but remember the solution has to work for both of those because the 2 plus 4x is in between these inequalities. So I have negative 5 halves and negative 7 fourths. Negative 5 halves is the same as negative 2.5. Negative 7 fourths is the same as negative 1 3/4. So negative 2.5 is less than the negative 1 3/4. So I'm going to start with that. So go to the GMM side. I'm going to tap in there. I'm going to go to my typing here. I'm going to type in the negative 2, make a fraction. Now I could have kept the improper fraction of negative 5 halves, but I changed it to a mixed number, negative 2.5. Now I want a less than sign, which I got from over here. So if I move that negative 2.5 back out front, this right here, grab a different color, negative 2.5 is less than x. So I want a less than sign. Now on your screen, there's a less than or equal to, and there's a greater than or equal to. I don't want either of those. So I'm going to backspace. On your keyboard, on your computer, there should be a less than sign. Good. Now is where you put the x. And now it takes us to the second part of the inequality. Right here, I have an x. It's less than negative 7 fourths. So I have an x already. I'm going to press less than again. And then I need negative 7 fourths. And if I change that to a mixed number, it would be, oh, I forgot my less than here. Put that right in here. Less than. Need my negative sign. I'm going to make it 1, negative 1, and then 3/4. Now, if I solved it right over on the right side, I should have it tapped in right here, and I check that. Okay, so that's correct. Now down below in your graph, you need two numbers, and make sure these numbers are in the right spot. Sometimes GMM puts them wherever they want. Negative 2.5 is less than negative 1 3/4, so it has to be to the left. So that works. Negative 1 3/4 is here. Now I want all the numbers, and notice the x is here, that's greater than negative 2.5, but less than negative 1 3/4. So it's all these numbers in between, and it doesn't include either of these. So I go to my menu, and I'm looking for this bar right here. It has two empty circles, because I know I'm including that, and everything in between, because it has to be greater than this one, but less than this one. Bingo. Let's do another one. Okay, this problem here, looking at the solving graph, 6 is less than or equal to 1 plus 9x. So I took that to the right and I rewrote it over here. But there's a second part to this. The 1 plus 9x is also less than or equal to 8. So take the time and write that on the right side on your scrap paper. So here I go. So now look on the right side. I have the second part, 1 plus 9x is less than or equal to 8. I'm going to take a little time. I'm going to pause the video and solve each of these separate ones, and I'll show you what happens when I get the solutions. All right, so I finished solving. Each of the parts, I had 5/9 is less than or equal to x. And on the other inequality, the other part, I have x is less than or equal to 7/9. So it has to be both of these because it's an and. So when I type this in, I look at 5/9 and 7/9, and 5/9 obviously is a little bit less than 7/9. So that's what I'll type in first. So let me pause and type that in right in here on the GMM side. All right, so I took a second and notice I typed in the inequalities over here, and it's just the way I had solved them on the right. Just double check I didn't miss any negatives. I have the right signs. Hit the green check. If we got it right, good. If not, we have to go back and make sure, check our work. And now to graph these, I'm going to make sure that 5/9 is on the left because it's less, 7/9 is greater. So on my graph here, I need a less than or equal to, that means it can be equal to. I need solid circles because each of these could be equal. So notice the third one down, I tap that. I want a solid dot here, and everything shaded in between because the solutions have to work for both. Greater than one, less than the other, and it can be equal to each one also. So make sure you pick the right choice. There's many different options here, so pick the right one. Okay, in this problem, -8 is less than -9 minus x, and -9 minus x is less than 10. So on the right-hand side, I'll recopy those. Now, when I go to solve these, this is going to be the toughest one so far because I'm going to end up having to divide by a negative. So hang tight. I'll be right back. Okay, so notice that I have 1 is less than the opposite of x. So I got to divide by -1 on both sides here to get x by itself. That's going to create a -1 here, and I need to reverse the sign because I divided by -1. Now here I'm going to divide by -1, and I get x and -19. And since I divided by negative, I have to once again reverse the sign here. Now the two numbers I got, -1 and -19, -19 is the least of those. So when I write this, I need to start with -19. And when I take -19 and move it in front, I need to reverse the sign. Then I get the x, okay? And then when I move -1 to the right side, I need to reverse the sign here. Let me pause this and check it. Now I know what I did. I did not reverse this sign right here. So I need to take this sign, and that should be a greater than because I should have reversed this one because I'm divided by negatives. Now when I go to move the x, first and the negative 1 second, I reverse the sign back to here. And this is what I want to type in into my GMN section over here. I'll take a second and do that. All right, so I typed it in. Let's now hit the check, see if I got it. I got it right. Negative 19 has to be on my number line on the left side, negative 1 on the right. Now, am I going to shade anything? Looks like x is greater than negative 19, but also it has to be less than negative 1. So I want everything in between, but not the negative 19 and not the negative 1. So I need the empty circles and everything in between. All right, take your time in these. Good luck.